All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, we're going live. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. This is your show, guys. This is all about you. We're doing a live Q&A. You know, we went to Twitter. We went to the community page. You guys have been submitting questions already in the live chat. And we're here just to answer them, Ralph.
Yes, we certainly are. And I know you mentioned we had a couple of them already lined up, and hopefully people will, submit a couple of questions here as we go through this. And
Yes, we will. I know there were a couple on the YouTube community page. So while people are filing in, we'll start with those questions as soon as I pull it up here. Again, thank you guys. If you want to submit a question, there's two ways you could do it. First, if you submit in the live chat, just put the hashtag question that you see on the bottom right of the screen there. If you put hashtag question with your question, it makes it easier for me to see when I'm going through the chat for your question. Also, you could donate to the Super Chat Party. Any dollar amount cuts straight to the line, front of the line, whatever question you want from AEW, WWE, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We will answer those for you. And also, you can support the channel by purchasing official Squared Circle Psychobabble merchandise, which includes this hoodie. Oh, as I hit the mic, there's the hoodie there with the official Squared Circle Psychobabble logo. We also have a pullover hoodie. We have T-shirts, mugs, and for this stream, this special stream, we have a promo code that you can see at the bottom of the screen. $5 off when you use the promo code SCPB Live, all one word, at checkout. So make sure you check that out as well. We thank everybody for joining us. Thank you for supporting us as we just surpassed 11,000 YouTube subscribers, Ralph.
definitely exciting. I'm interested if anybody's in the chat who's been here since day one. I know it seems like it's gone by pretty quickly here.
Yeah, it's
But
2
thank
years.
you. Yeah, the support has definitely been great.
It really has. And even on social, on Twitter, we've gotten plenty. So now that I have the questions pulled up here, we'll get started. And there's actually it looks like three questions from the community page. Let's start with those. We'll first start with Lenoshi Bell. He asked, why do people act like NXT is a separate entity from WWE? I think first and foremost, they don't tour like WWE does. They're always in one place, which is the Full Sail University. And the fact that we still get the thing of saying that they are promoted to the main roster from NXT. I think that's the big problem right there.
Yeah, I think it's done intentionally. If you're WWE, they don't want you to think that it's at the same level as Raw or SmackDown. They always make it a point to essentially, make it feel like NXT is its own brand, its own identity. That you get guys that go back and forth all the time, whether it's through a draft or just week by week, where one guy's on SmackDown, the next week he's on Raw. Those things happen all the time. If you think about just business in general, there's so many companies out there that do have they own multiple companies. So for example, I think Facebook owns Instagram. Those are
Yes, it does.
Those are Facebook owns that portion of social media, but they still feel very differently. If you were to go on each website, they would look differently. They'd have their own different types of interactions, things like that. So I think NXT is supposed to feel different. It is essentially supposed to be a product, I guess, that is there to compete, I guess, with AEW. It's supposed to cater, I think, to the more hardcore fan, while the main roster, like Raw or SmackDown, is supposed to cater to the maybe casual fan or the younger fan audience.
Right.
So it's supposed to feel different. It's supposed to look different. It's supposed to have an entirely different fan base, in my opinion. It's done by intent.
I agree. I don't know if I mean, it is done by intent, but I also think at the same time, Ralph, that it doesn't necessarily need to be. I think NXT could tour, not to like the levels of the, 10,000 seat arenas like WWE does for Raw and SmackDown, but they are doing, they're taking takeovers to different locations. We went to takeover, what was that, 25 at Bridgeport?
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely part of it. So I think eventually it will lead to them being like a third brand, but who knows? Only time will tell. But let's go to the next question. This is from Williams Pro TV on the community page on the YouTube channel, which you guys can access just by subscribing. If COVID didn't happen, which company do you think would have thrived the most in 2020? That's a good question. In the United States, I think you have to go with WWE because they're still the number one by a long shot when it comes to ratings, when it comes to revenue, talent. I mean, you could still debate talent for whether that's AEW or WWE, but I don't see. I think WrestleMania 36 would have been a statement WrestleMania that told you that we're finally moving out of the part-timers like the Brock Lesnars, like the Goldbergs, and creating a new roster with stars, trying to create those new stars like we're seeing with Drew McIntyre, like Sasha Banks, like Bayley, that regardless of the pandemic or not, I think they're still doing that, Ralph.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing to point out is you would find out essentially how over a heel or a face is. You know, we really don't have a good indicator right now. I mean, yeah, you can look at merchandise, you can look at the wrestling industry and ratings as a whole. You can go with the, ratings by segment, all of that type of stuff, which it's all important, but there's really no type of confirmation like the way that a live crowd interacts when somebody comes out, when their music hits and you hear that pop. When they win that big match, like Drew McIntyre, I feel so bad for him because he's had a really good run as the Universal Champion, and we don't really know how effective he truly was as a champion. He had great matches. Right. He was able to perform at a high level. He got the very best essentially out of Randy Orton, other than Edge. I mean, over the course of Orton's last, I don't know, maybe 5 years, this is some of the best work he's done in his career, maybe. Mm-hmm. And we just don't know how good it really could have been. So right. Your guys like your MJFs, your Drew McIntyres, even Otis to a certain extent. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about him as being this guy that nobody can really get interested in. But I mean, right before this whole pandemic thing happened, it started to seem like he was going to be over. A guy like Matt Riddle, how over is he with the fan base? Matt Hardy, was that actually going to work with the broken Matt Hardy gimmick in AEW? All right. Things that unfortunately we're not going to know until the fans come back.
That is true. That is very true. And I think that's why Orton dropped the title, or excuse me, McIntyre dropped the title to Orton last night, or Sunday, I should say, because they want to give him that moment when fans come back to win the title. He's got to drop the title before he wins it back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they have McIntyre go back-to-back in the Royal Rumble because of that.
Certainly possible. I think that the way that they could tell that story is, if Randy carries a title, I think it would be really interesting if Randy carried the title all the way to WrestleMania and the last two in the Royal Rumble ended up being Drew McIntyre and Edge.
Right.
So both of them are either, I mean, that would tell a good story because you got the guy who lost to Randy Orton trying to get back to the point where he's trying to get the belt back from Randy. And then you got Edge, who we know he has unfinished business with Orton, and just the story with Edge too. I mean, the unfortunate situation with the pandemic. I mean, this guy comes back after having, whatever it was, 10 years hiatus because of his neck. Mm-hmm. And then he comes back. He has that one Royal Rumble moment, which was amazing, but coming back and being at WrestleMania in front of all those fans, didn't get that opportunity. So hopefully he does get that opportunity before he decides to actually retire.
Right. All right. So I got one more question from the community page, and then we'll head to Twitter questions. And then as they're piling up, I see a lot of questions already in the live chat. You guys could cut the line by supporting the channel. Donate to the Super Chat Party. Any dollar amount gets you next in line for your question to be answered. This one comes from Daisy May. She is a big commenter on our channel, huge supporter for the last few months, at least, if not longer. Her question was, next breakout talent across all promotions. This is a tough one, I think. Oof. This is a tough one because it depends on what promotion we're talking here. AEW, I think the breakout star is MJF or Adam Hangman Page. In WWE, I believe Sasha and Bayley are becoming the breakout stars. And I think if you actually look at the ratings and study them, you could see Sasha Banks has been the draw during the pandemic era. No matter what show she's on, anytime she's on, the ratings go up during her segment.
Yeah, and again, this is so difficult to talk about because you don't have the live crowds to really confirm how over somebody truly is, you know.
Right.
And there's also when the fans start to get behind somebody, it starts to build momentum week after week after week. It kind of seems like when you're performing in front of essentially nobody.
Yeah,
AEW is performing in front of some fans. NXT is performing in front of some fans, but it's just different. I agree. MJF certainly is capable of doing it. The main roster is hard. It's very difficult to predict because they just book people terribly. I like what they're doing with The Fiend. So him and Alexa Bliss, I think that can certainly go a long way as long as it's booked correctly and he's not going to lose to like Goldberg or something.
Did you watch Raw last night?
Yeah.
What'd you think of Firefly Funhouse with Alexa this week?
I mean, I liked it's different. It's different, and that's the main thing. They have to be different. They have to do something to stand out, especially him. I mean, you think about all of the blunders along the way, whether it was the feud with Seth Rollins or Goldberg beating him, whichever that you want to pick.
Right.
They got to do something different, and I think that there's money to be made with Alexa Bliss and The Fiend.
I agree 100%. And I thought that Firefly Funhouse episode was awesome. Yeah. I love the Alice in Wonderland theme because we all know Alexa's a big Disney fan, especially like the diehard Alexa Bliss fans know she is huge Disney. And I like how they're incorporating her Disney influence into this story with the Firefly Funhouse. So like it kind of connects kids and scares the shit out of them at the same time. So I think it works awesomely. So Bray could be a breakout star. New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't know since the pandemic started if you've really been following, but Kota Ibushi just won the G1, and I think they're finally going to push him, but he is in his later 30s. But if we're talking breakout star, I don't know why, but it seems like they're pushing Sonata in New Japan Pro Wrestling a lot. I mean, he was in the finals against Kota this year, and watching the B Block final against Evil, just the crowd interaction with Sonata really shocked me. Like, I think New Japan knows that there's something with this guy, but then when you see social media, all like the Western wrestling fans are like, we don't get it. Why the hell is Sonata getting pushed? You know?
Yeah.
Especially when you have Naito.
Yeah, that's certainly a difficult thing. And especially because it's so difficult to get somebody over when you're talking about, you know, worldwide. I mean, that's again, we talk about this all the time, like getting over to that level. If it was that easy, it would happen much more. There's only been a handful of guys that really get over to that superstar, megastar level. So many, you there's probably, you know, you can count them on one hand of guys that have been to that level. So it's certainly difficult. Going back to the original question, NXT, we talk about her all the time. I think Shotzi Blackheart for NXT, I think is going to have a really big year going forward. I think it's only a matter of time before she ends up winning the title. I don't know what ends up happening with Io Shirai, but Io Shirai is great. But Shotzi Blackheart, I think that is, you know, just somebody who stands out. She's very good in the ring. She's been very good and consistent. I believe it or not, and I have not watched a ton of Impact. I'm probably like most people, but I get a lot of the clips that I see. And ever since going back to Impact, I've liked a lot of what Eric Young has done, and I followed that storyline specifically.
I didn't watch it. I haven't been watching, but I heard the Eric Young Witch Swan storyline was really, really good.
Yeah, and you know, to be honest, and you know, I liked him in NXT, and I wasn't a huge fan of his when his first run initially in TNA, but from what I've seen, they had a one segment with him and Scott D'Amore where Rich Swann ended up coming out. Yep. And I think Young ended up dropping the title to Rich Swann. But either way, I mean, that's another guy. I mean, he's been doing some pretty good work too. So it all depends what you like.
Yeah, true. It really does. But, you know, I followed the G1. That was really the first New Japan stuff I've watched since the pandemic started. We've been watching AEW and NXT on a weekly basis because we review it. There was a while where I wasn't really watching Raw and starting to really get back into SmackDown now that Roman's back, and that storyline with Jey Uso is really, really good. Let's give props to WWE where it's due, though. They are doing this weird thing where they're taking tag team wrestlers and really building stars. So, like, you got Jey Uso, you got Otis. Lee Jones, thank you for the 20-pound donation, by the way. He had no question. He just wanted to give us 20 pounds. Very awesome there.
Thank you, sir.
Is that, I don't know if that's pounds or euros. I'm not too familiar with the European currency. Either way, thank you for the donation. But Jey Uso, even Kyle O'Reilly in NXT with his championship match against Finn Balor, that was awesome. So they're doing this weird thing where they're breaking out these tag team wrestlers, and maybe that's why Sonata's getting the push in New Japan Pro Wrestling. They saw what WWE's doing. And then Impact Wrestling, obviously you got the women's division. That's just so good. I think those are the breakout stars when you got like a Deonna Purrazzo and you got a Jordan Grace, a Sue Young, a Kiera Hogan. I mean, we always talk about how good NXT's women's division is. Impact Wrestling could make a run for their money.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. All right. So we have a couple Twitter questions. Those that follow us on Twitter at SCPB Podcast submitted some questions before we went live. This one goes to Rick Johnston. He says, do you think AEW needs another belt like a Cruiserweight division or an X division? And he actually has a second question. Besides Tessa, who should AEW sign to help increase the women's division?
I think as far as adding another title, I don't want to see it. I think that they're doing good with what they have now. The other thing you got to take into consideration, WWE, for example, because they're always going to be compared to WWE. They have a lot more TV. They have a lot more content, and they, even knowing how much TV time that they have, people still say they have far too many belts. I think right now the AEW is doing a really good job at legitimizing their tag team division. They've got tournaments and things like that that are going on, so it's not like they necessarily need the titles.
Right.
And they have the heavyweight championship. You know, I think they're doing just enough to keep the storylines intriguing. Adding another belt, that means, you know, what? Then you put the belt on a guy like Darby Allin, and then, okay, well now him, Sammy Guevara, those guys chase the belt, and which is fine, and you give them the opportunity. But I'd rather see those guys competing for like the TNT championship or
I would not mind a cruiserweight. I would not mind a cruiserweight title, Ralph, because one thing that I think is a big black eye, I really shouldn't call it a black eye, but one of the criticisms AEW has been getting recently are the rankings. And when you got guys like Brian Cage, Lance Archer, Brody Lee, you know, kind of stifling the rankings in the heavyweight title division, which also works into the TNT championship division. How can a guy like Darby get into those rankings, or a Sammy Guevara, or a Ricky Starks? If you create another division with their own rankings, I think that would help build those guys to be stars. Then you use the FTW championship that Brian Cage has, use that as like an open weight title, similar to what we see in New Japan with the Never Openweight Championship, to those make the migration to the heavyweight title, and then we see those guys become stars.
All right, you brought up the elephant in the room, rankings.
Yep.
Like them or get rid of them?
I think they need to be fixed. I don't think they have to get rid of them. They need to be fixed to a point where the quality of win should matter and involve as well as just wins. Because right now, you see the top five, and a lot of those guys in the top five, their wins came from AEW Dark. Not a lot of people watch AEW Dark. And if you're watching this live stream, you're definitely not watching AEW Dark because it's on right now.
Let me bring this up because you pointed out, well, some of those guys aren't necessarily getting up into the top five or any of the rankings and whatever else. So if you do away with the rankings, who's to say a guy like Darby Allin or Sammy Guevara, anybody who gets over organically, who's a smaller guy,
right?
If you do away with the rankings, you don't need to necessarily justify, oh, well, yeah, there's a ranking system and he's not in the top five. Like, you don't have to worry about that. Just go with the best storyline. I mean, right now, some people, including you and I think we've been a little critical of AEW because they have the tournament going on, but they're ignoring the rankings. And I get it. I guess that's a way to work around the ranking system. But you're essentially like putting yourself in a corner and saying, okay, well, we have to abide by these rankings. Just give the fans what they want. If Darby Allin goes out and gets over with the fans and he's the guy that, the hot hand, let him challenge for the title. It shouldn't matter where he's ranked.
True, but I think it deviates them as being in an alternative to WWE where they're trying to say wins and losses matter, but there have been those cases where wins and losses matter except when they matter. Like Eddie Kingston is getting 2 championship opportunities while never being ranked. Orange Cassidy's getting 3 TNT championship opportunities despite never being ranked. But there's a chance where quality of win matters because he beat Chris Jericho twice. I wouldn't mind him being ranked 5th in that scenario. When you got a guy like Sean Spears who has all his wins on AEW Dark except for maybe like 2 on Dynamite against jobbers. It wasn't even like quality wins. So right. That there, and I know a lot of people would shake their heads. How can you rank Orange Cassidy? The guy was booked strong for 3 months in that Jericho feud. So let's go to the next question. Let's see. There were, I think, one more from Twitter. Where'd it go? Okay, here we go. This is from Jason Skiberis. I hope I pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. He says, though unlikely, could the Young Bucks be making an announcement? This is the announcement tomorrow that was just promoted for tomorrow's Dynamite, that they are entering the World Tag League in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Could we see the partnership with AEW? What kind of working relationship would there be? And could Ring of Honor be involved?
Oof. Difficult, very difficult.
Well, if New Japan has their loyalty to Ring of Honor, I definitely see that happening. That Ring of Honor is also part of this. I know their inside guy in Ring of Honor is being shunned out right now, and based on what I've seen, it's kind of rightfully so. But I'm sure they have other people in Ring of Honor, other people in New Japan Pro Wrestling that they can work out that relationship with. Obviously, Moxley and Jericho are already doing stuff in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Ring of Honor, it depends on what the relationship is between them and guys like SCU and the Young Bucks, who are supposed to be the guys that Ring of Honor banked on for a huge 2019 and a huge 2020 that they really haven't rebounded since those guys left.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of times when we hear that there's going to be a big announcement, we all kind of jump to conclusions that we're going to get some type of announcement about New Japan Pro Wrestling or some type of partnership. And that's certainly great and cool and fun to talk about. I mean, realistically, this is probably going to be some type of stipulation to their match, I would think. I don't know. You tell me what you think. But that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know. I mean, I think it could be a stipulation to the championship match. Maybe they're going to unmask Excalibur because he's involved in the segment. Maybe they're going to set a rule where the Young Bucks can't do any flips in the match. Maybe if the Young Bucks violate any tag. It just came to me. FTR picks the referee.
That actually could be it. Yeah.
The FTR picks the referee because every single Young Bucks match, Rick Knox is the referee. And if you've been paying attention to who's been the referee in certain matches, you start to notice that AEW, certain wrestlers are picking their own referees. Like they have personal referees. You see Aubrey Edwards in every Jericho match. You see Rick Knox in every Young Bucks match. Paul Turner has had his fair share of certain guys too. I think he's been in a fair share of Kenny Omega's matches. So I think there's some favoritism to which ref because they know, okay, this guy will play by my rules. And that's an issue. That is an issue with AEW that I think they need to focus on. Tony Khan has to be like, listen, no choice of referees. This isn't like baseball where you get a personal catcher. We pick the referee because it's going to best tell the story.
Well, I think that's part of the problem. I think that they're picking the ref. If this is something that's actually happening, it's happening because it's a referee they're comfortable with, knowing that they're going to work a certain style, and whether they're going to abide by the rules or ignore the rules blatantly, probably the latter of the two.
Yeah,
that's why these things are happening, I'd imagine.
Right. All right. So next question on Twitter comes from Mikey Beat. With Arn Anderson officially filing for the trademark The Four Horsemen, do you guys see AEW and Arn bringing the Four Horsemen back into professional wrestling? If so, who manages them? Arn or Tully? And who are the 4 guys that make the most sense to join the group? Well, we did an episode on this already. So I said that the 4 horsemen would be FTR, Sean Spears, and Cody, managed by Tully Blanchard. I believe you said MJF, Wardlow, and FTR. And I'm not sure if you had a manager. I'm assuming Tully too, right?
Yeah, I would probably go with Tully. I mean, I think that right now Arn is doing his thing with Cody, and that's working. I don't see any reason to break them up for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it'd be likely if this were to happen, I think it would be Tully.
Yeah, I agree too. So, and then there was one more from Mikey. I think this is a really good question considering it's WWE based. Who do you guys see winning the epic matchup for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania 37? Roman Reigns or The Rock?
The Miz.
No. The Miz is cashing in at Survivor Series. You know why?
I know. I've seen all the lineage and the history behind this.
Yes. Yep. Happened in Orlando at the Amway Center when Randy Orton was champion on November 22nd, 2020. So Roman Reigns is going to beat the shit out of Randy Orton at Survivor Series, lose to Roman Reigns, and then Miz takes advantage and cashes in.
Likely scenario, yeah.
They need to find the angry Miz girl to have her in the Thunderdome. They got to find her.
Yeah.
It just would be perfect. It would be absolutely perfect. But to answer the question, who wins, Roman or Rock? Roman wins, and he needs to win. This match has to happen for the sake of the wrestling industry. I don't care if you love or hate WWE, but we need to admit WWE is the barometer for the wrestling industry. If WWE fails, wrestling fails. Okay? So let me finish. You need what has happened over the last few years in WWE is that the part-timers come, get themselves over, and then leave. It does not keep those viewers watching and keeping the next generation over. You need someone like The Rock to come in, who is the biggest name in Hollywood, still one of the biggest names wrestling's ever had. Come in, go after Roman Reigns, have that match. It's going to be a great story. Not to sound Trump-esque here, but it's going to be a tremendous story. One of the best stories you'll ever hear. Excuse me. But it would be a very good story, especially if they tie in all the lineage and the family stuff. Roman wins, and that keeps viewers still here. That's what they need to do. For the sanctity of the wrestling industry, Roman versus Rock has to happen. Roman has to win, and he has to be booked strong between now and Mania.
Yeah, and you said something, and I really don't know if people truly understand this. I mean, I know there is, I couldn't put a number on it, but there is a certain percentage of the wrestling fan base that hates WWE so much that they want to see them fail.
Yep.
There's also WWE fans who want to see AEW fail. I can't wrap my head around that. If WWE fails, as big as WWE is, they're worldwide. What TV station, what company is going to be willing to take a risk on a commodity that is not proven? Like, that'd be like saying we want the NFL to go under so we could bring in like European football and have that be
the XFL.
Yeah, like it's just when people say that, I don't know if they truly understand like the ramifications that would follow if WWE were to go out of business.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be good for the wrestling industry as a whole by any means necessary.
Right. We did get a $20 donation from Francis Loop. Thank you very much. I know he's donated to the Super Chat Party a couple times on our previous live chats. Thank you very much. He has a comment here. If I was the owner or executive in charge of the USA Network, I would cancel NXT. Merge the Raw and NXT rosters, looking at their creative now. It would thicken things up, all the championship divisions big time, and have fresh feuds. I get where he's coming from with this. Raw has a tough time filling those 3 hours. But I do think they did a very good job from the draft trying to fix that problem. when you bring in guys like Matt Riddle, Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, Elias, there's a lot of guys, Braun Strowman. We already have Keith Lee coming up from NXT. I think there's a lot of guys there, including Randy Orton, the current champion, that can be interchangeable between the U.S. title, upper mid-card, and main event level, that you could keep feuds very fresh. I like what they're doing with The Fiend and Randy Orton and bringing that back to their WrestleMania match where Randy Orton burned down Sister Abigail's house. So I think Alexa being involved with this is going to kind of tell that story even better. And they did it without really hurting SmackDown's roster. I think both did a good job of balancing out the rosters and addressing key issues on both shows, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and you also have to consider, like we already talked about, how good the Roman storyline has been. That's the focal point on SmackDown. I mean, that's something that a lot of people within the wrestling industry are talking about. A lot of the fans are talking about, whether you like WWE or you don't like it. I think a lot of people could watch that and at least be interested in it. Like I was saying with Impact, I don't watch Impact on a weekly basis. I have never purchased a Impact or TNA pay-per-view.
Did you buy Bound for Glory?
I did not buy it, but
I know you were coming close because you said it was like $5. So you're like, wow, I might buy this thing.
Yeah, because I was bored. I was at home and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just buy this. But I didn't buy it. But you know, I'm still slightly invested in what is going on there because of Eric Young and that whole storyline. So you know, it's all about finding storylines that you're interested in and I guess paying attention. So I think that WWE has done a very good job with Roman.
What do you think of, not to change the subject with WWE, you brought up Impact Wrestling, but what do you think of EC3 right now and his whole control the narrative gimmick? And it seems like he's going between Ring of Honor and Impact Wrestling, and people saying whether there's a partnership there or is it that they are he's able to go to both promotions in his contract or whatever. But what do you think of his character right now from what you've seen?
Well, I've seen some of it, very limited. A lot of it I've seen the vignettes and the promos from social media. I think that it's weird because it's a good time to be a wrestling fan because there is so much to pay attention to, but it's a very difficult time to be a hardcore professional wrestling fan because you got WWE, you got AEW. Those are the two big companies, I guess you would say, in the United States. Yeah. You got New Japan Pro Wrestling, you got Impact, which is, you know, it's got its following. It's been pretty good. You got MLW that is, you know, very good too. And if you pay attention to it, you got Ring of Honor that has essentially got this whole reset going on with the tournament that they have going on there. NXT, I didn't even mention NXT. That's 7 companies off the top of my head. And then that's not even talking about some of the smaller promotions. So, and some of the independent people doing like these live shows on Fight TV. You got the British independent scene that's starting to come back. NXT UK just launched back up about a month ago. I've been watching a little bit of it as it's on where I work. I think it's just really good. And you don't necessarily have to stick to just WWE Raw and SmackDown. I like the fact that we have choices here. We did get another $20 donation from Francis Loop. Thank you very much, man. I mean, really appreciate it. This goes, he's calling out Lee Jones, another supporter of the channel. You would still have 3 hours every Monday. You get rid of all the worthless segments and alternate wrestlers' storylines like every other week. Also, stop, rinse, and repeat, and wrestlers get along, get like 4 to 6 segments. He's referring to Raw and NXT combining. I guess Lee, I'm trying to follow the chat here. I guess Lee was saying that it's not a good idea to merge the two rosters. I get where he's coming from, and that makes a lot of sense. But with the amount of money that they spent on the roster, they gotta either cut bait, get rid of some people, which I understand. People don't want to hear that during a pandemic, but either cut bait or find some TV time for these guys. You have 3 hours. There's no reason why you can't get some of these guys on television. Yeah. All right. Now that we got through all the Twitter questions, we got through all the community page questions, we're going to the live chat. Make sure you use the hashtag question before your question so I can see it in the live chat. And of course, if you want to cut the line, join the super chat party. And also,
merchandise, folks. Merchandise. See that beautiful hoodie with the SCPB logo on it? We got mugs. We got T-shirts. We got pullover hoodies, stickers, phone cases. Masks.
Wear your masks.
Wear your mask, yes. Don't go to bars. Don't go to restaurants. But yes, you get $5 off with the promo code SCPB Live, all one word. So we appreciate if you guys support us there and get wearing that SCPB merch. It looks awesome, by the way, and it feels good too. But all right, here we go. Mex for Life. Do you guys see Randy Orton versus Edge for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania next year? If Orton is still the champion, I think he could run all the way to WrestleMania as champion, and we see Edge versus Orton. But I don't think this feud necessarily needs the championship involved.
I don't think it needs a championship, but I think that makes it that much more intriguing. I mean, think of what was going on with Edge right before so Edge got hurt. He cut this promo, very dark promo on Raw one night. And he said that, you brought out the rated R superstar, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine the ramifications and the intrigue to that match, knowing that Edge was injured. He didn't wrestle for all these years. He comes back. He wins the Royal Rumble. He goes to main event WrestleMania against his arch rival, Randy Orton.
Yeah.
That has all the makings for what fans want. I mean, they want something to be invested in.
Exactly.
They want to be invested in the product. And I mean, you're talking about casual fans and you're talking about fans who have been probably following for the longest time. A lot of people, I think, are still behind Edge and can get, intrigued by that storyline. So I think that adding that element to it and adding the belt only helps it.
I agree. All right. So the next one here is a New Japan question. So Ralph, I don't know if you'll be able to answer it depending on what you have been following or not, but this comes from Anod, a new subscriber.
Robinson.
It's not Juice Robinson. It actually involves Will Osprey. So I don't know if you saw in the G1 Climax, he did turn on Kazuchika Okada and Chaos. And he's starting this new faction with the Great Okan and his girlfriend, B. Priestley. So his question is, do you think Osprey's heel turn and new stable will push him to the moon? Not Cameron Grimes like push, but try to make him the next Omega. Well, I mean, New Japan has been looking for that top gaijin since Omega left. I think they were trying to make it Jay White. It makes sense to push Osprey, but I think there's a lot of people that love Juice Robinson, a guy that you just mentioned. I think the Japanese audience love to hate Jay White, especially with him really teasing the crowd during the G1, how he was trying to force the crowd to chant, even though they couldn't. It's part of the guidelines of having shows back is that they can't chant. They can only clap. So in a way, Jay White would like clap to like really give it to the fans. I thought he was really good in the G1. The next Omega, I mean, it makes sense with Osprey. It does. But Jay, Juice, or Osprey, I think you go either way with that one. Let's see. Next question here. Anything to add from that, Ralph?
No, I'm good. You pretty much covered that one.
Yep. Okay. There's a bunch of going back and forth before the thing started about when people started watching wrestling. That was actually a question. It got lost in the chat.
When did we start watching wrestling?
When did we start watching wrestling? I could tell you, for me, it was 1990, roughly. I was 2. The match that got me hooked was the Ultimate Challenge. So now every time I see like champion versus champion, Intercontinental champion versus WWE champion, or like the 2 belts thing in New Japan, I get all excited because we're getting like Ultimate Challenges, because it just brings me back to my first memory of professional wrestling. Now, I remember like early on in the pandemic, you showed me a video from that match, just how loud the Toronto Skydome was in that match. Yeah. They were going nuts. And I was just listening to a segment with Bruce Pritchard and the Something to Wrestle With. They were talking about the Ultimate Warrior and his draw appeal. And the guy asked Pritchard if now he feels that the Ultimate Warrior was not a draw. And Pritchard basically said, like, Hogan was still a draw at 90. Like, people weren't getting sick of him yet. And I think because he was gone doing a movie and came back in July, I think they never gave Ultimate Warrior enough of a chance to see if he was a draw. But they weren't getting the numbers that Hogan was getting.
I think that any promotion in the world right now would love to have somebody that had the ability to draw like the Ultimate Warrior right now. As far as when I started watching wrestling, I can't give you like an exact moment or date, much like you. I think the Ultimate Challenge was one of my first memories. I think that when I first started watching, it was mostly of, older WrestleManias on VHS. So like even when I was younger, it was, stuff that was recorded or happened before I was even born. So
right.
That's really when I first started watching. That was one of my first memories. WrestleMania 8, Sid versus Hogan.
Yep. And the botched finish of Papa Shango coming in late. But that
WrestleMania 8 is extremely underrated, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because you got Tito Santana and Shawn Michaels, I believe, opened the night.
Yes,
that was freaking awesome. Bret Hart and Roddy Piper to this day is one of my favorite matches. Anybody who's a newer professional wrestling fan, and you will hear all of these, traditionalists, myself included, they talk about not having to do flips and dives to make a good match. Go watch that match. Psychology wise, I mean, that is one of my favorite matches of all time. And mind you, the crowd itself, the crowds today, I mean, before the pandemic, you get moments where they're loud, but I mean, I just feel like fans were much more invested for some reason.
They didn't have cell phones in their hands.
Exactly. Yeah. More people were reacting and not paying attention, not focusing so much on putting their phone up to put something up on Snapchat or Instagram. So,
right. All right. Next question comes from Mark Menning. He's another longtime subscriber of the channel. If you were in charge of NXT, how would you do to turn the tides of the Wednesday Night War? You could do whatever you want to try to turn the tides. You could have The Rock versus Austin on NXT. And I think it's just fans are just going to choose what they want. And people are going to flip back and forth. And honestly, coming from someone that works in television, those that have followed this channel long enough know I work in television. Those ratings are so antiquated and don't really tell you the whole story that you really shouldn't even pay attention to them. The Wednesday Night War is fan created. Okay. Yes, I get it. The USA Network took NXT and moved it to the USA Network off the WWE Network to combat AEW on TNT. I get that. But with the creation of the DVR and streaming capabilities, you don't have to choose. You can choose both. So if NXT loses every week, but still they're making money for the USA Network, who cares? Who cares?
NXT needs their fans back desperately.
Yes.
And they need to be able to tour.
Yes.
And they need to be able to, that's how they're going to be able to compete. NXT had such a committed fan base before the pandemic. I mean, I was at I've been at WrestleManias, I've been at takeovers, I've been at all types of shows, SummerSlams, and the NXT fan base was so invested in it right around the time when Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa were competing against each other. That's what they need. They need something. They need their fans back. They miss their fans more than AEW does, in my opinion. Right.
No, I agree. I agree. Next question comes from MKASPPDO. Sorry, I don't know if there's a special pronunciation for that, but it's a bunch of letters with 64 at the end. His question is, I know you guys are busy, but what do you have against AEW and its online content like BTE, AEW Dark, and the Road to features? And he puts in parentheses, just no time to watch or just don't care. First off, the thing with Dark is there's really never matches that are like, oh my God, this match I need to watch because it progresses the storyline. BTE, it's not like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch BTE to see what to further the storyline of AEW Dynamite. And I know people tell me all the time, like, and they tell you all the time, if you watch it, it helps progress certain things on Dynamite. But if AEW doesn't even give me a reason to care to put it on Dynamite, to say like, hey, here's what you missed on Dark, on BTE, on the Road 2 features, there's no reason for me to care. So, I mean, they're there for the diehards. And good. People watch them. They get a lot of good numbers when it comes to YouTube. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people, especially with the rankings going, why is this guy number 3 and all of a sudden 13-2 when he's only had like 4 matches on Dynamite? Because they're on Dark. But people aren't watching because they're facing, it's like watching 1993 Raw and Razor Ramon wrestling Paul Van Dale. You know? People don't care.
Yeah, I got to agree. I mean, if it's that important, if it's going to be that big of a part of a storyline, or, you know, if it's going to have implications on a storyline, that stuff should be included on Dynamite one way or another. I mean, Dynamite is their flagship show. You can talk about Dark. You can talk about BTE, which isn't even, I don't think it's an entity of AEW.
No, it's the Bucks it's the Bucks and Omegas.
Yeah, I mean, if it's that important and it's crucial to the advancement of a storyline, find a way to get to include it on Dynamite, not on some YouTube channel show that I have to go out of my way to. I mean, I tell you this all the time. I am not going to do my homework or have to feel like I'm doing homework to be able to follow a storyline. If it's that important, AEW will go out of their way to tell the story on Dynamite, the show that everybody's watching, or that's where a majority of their fans are watching.
Exactly.
So that's my take on it. I got nothing against the show. If people like it, they like it. That's fine.
Right. Like if I see that Brian Pillman Jr.'s on, he was a guest on this show, you know, when we first started. So if I see that he's on doing a match on Dark, I might check it out. If there's, you know, certain matches that we see, I might check it out, but I'm not going to watch 16 matches where, you know, 12 of them are squashes or against guys that, you know, we know where the result's going to come. And that's why people stop watching Raw and SmackDown, because it got predictable. So don't say you're going to watch Dark when it's predictable. So this one comes from Lion 2012. Peace from Toronto. Thank you from the Great North. Love your videos and Wrestling Insight. Have you ever been to Canada? I've not been to Canada. Toronto is probably on my bucket list, being a hockey fan, being somewhat of a Rush fan. I hear Tim Hortons is great. I would love to have a Tim Hortons donut. So I would love to make it to Toronto. Maybe if WrestleMania heads into the Sky Dome again or the Rogers Center, maybe I'll make the trip there. I'm not a winter guy. I hate winter. I am a summer guy through and through. So you'll find me more in the Bahamas than you'll find me in Canada. But Toronto is a place that I would like to go to.
Not me, man. I like the cold. I'm into winter and I'm into fall. I think the middle of August, July, hot, humid, it sucks.
You can't play baseball in the winter with all that snow. You got to be able to play. I'm like Sid Vicious. I got to be able to play softball, man. Whatever job obligations I have, those go out the window. Softball's got to be played, man.
What was that line that Jericho said to that fan? I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
Yes, I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That popped in my head. Side note, I just watched a bit where HBK came out on Raw. It was taunting the fans. I think it was in Toronto. Might have been in Montreal.
Was that after the screw job the next night?
Was that in Montreal or was that in Toronto?
The next night, I think, was Ottawa.
Well, wherever it was, he was taunting the fans, and they made it seem like Brett was going to come out, and he didn't, obviously.
Right. Yeah, that was the night after the screw job on Raw, if I'm not mistaken. But let's see. Any more? Let's see. We already answered that question. You guys have been coming up with some good comments here.
People keep asking us our favorite wrestlers.
Of all time or right now?
I see people asking past and present. I don't know, maybe right now.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. When you're talking about best wrestlers all time, it goes Shawn, Kurt, Flair, Savage, everybody else. That's my list.
All-time list?
All-time list.
Stone Cold Steve Austin's not on your all-time list?
Nope.
Hogan's not on yours?
No. Because...
Wow.
No. Listen.
Now, this is your personal preference, though.
Yes,
we're not talking. Okay,
we're not talking draw ability, because draw ability, it's Hogan and Austin, The Rock, everybody else. No, this is like wrestling ability, character work, being able to work as a face and a heel. Charisma. Those 4 right there. Being able to do both serious stuff and comedy stuff. Those 4 were like perfect at it. There's nothing. Those 4 could do anything, and it's gold, regardless of what it was. Whether it was sexy Kurt, whether it was DX, Flair stripping in front of everybody, calling himself the president of the United States, Macho Man doing his thing, Bonesaw and Spider-Man. It works no matter what. Let's see.
Nobody wants to know my favorite?
Go ahead. What's your favorite?
Oh my God, I haven't even thought about this in forever. Stone Cold Steve Austin is certainly up there. Definitely my number 1. Hogan's probably up there. Bret Hart is up there. Shawn, Kurt.
Yeah, I knew growing up I was the Camp Shawn, you were the Camp Bret at WrestleMania 12. I remember that.
But then once you start to, Bret is outstanding. So good. Shawn Michaels is on another level good.
Yep.
Kurt Angle is very good. Mm-hmm. I like the Chris Jericho, big fan of his still to this day. I was always a big Brock Lesnar fan. I implore anybody who did not follow Brock Lesnar's early years in the WWE, if you're just going to judge him based on Suplex City, go watch some of his matches against Kurt Angle. He was very, very good in his early career.
Tell you what, when it comes to sellers, even today, Brock Lesnar is one of the most underrated sellers in wrestling.
Yes.
Hands down. But his sample size is very, very small. So I wouldn't necessarily call him one of the best, but he's definitely up there personally. Let's see.
DX or NWO?
DX. I got to go with Shawn. I'm a Shawn guy. So I'm going DX.
I would say DX. I think NWO got too big and too goofy. If they kept it to just Hall, Nash, and Hogan, and maybe a couple other guys, sure. But
see, what I think they should have done with the NWO is they should have had only those with prior knowledgeable WWE experience be in the NWO. And that's what it looked like it was going to be at first when you have Hogan, Hall, Nash, DiBiase, Virgil showed up, Savage showed up. But then they started bringing in guys like Buff Bagwell, Big Show, Giant. And it just got Scott Norton was in the NWO. Guys that weren't never in WWE or had very small time in WWE. So it's like, really? Like the only guy left was DDP and Sting that never went to NWO. And then eventually Sting got into NWO.
Yeah, and then you had the Wolf Pack, and then Conan had his version of it. It was it was a lot. I just had a flashback of one of my first wrestling memories. Do you remember No Holds Barred and Zeus?
Oh, yeah. That's on Hulu.
Oh, God.
Yeah. One of the first things I watched off Hulu when I subscribed was No Holds Barred, believe it or not.
Wow.
And actually, on the WWE Network, they just aired an episode of Saturday Night Main Event where Hogan wrestled DiBiase and Zeus was in his corner back in like October of '89. So, yeah. Zeus, man. Bring that guy back. Let's see. I just had a good question and now I lost it because the chat keeps going up. Oh, man. Where'd it go? Oh, here we go. Do you think that MJF versus Omega the Cleaner would happen when they're both heels? Because I think that would be a good match. No, I don't think that happens if they're both heels. If it were to happen, I think Omega would be the face because I don't know if MJF, I think he could be a face, but I think his character definitely works better as a heel. And the same with the Cleaner. But I think the Cleaner could translate as a face more given their fan base. Nothing on that one either.
No, I agree. I think that MJF would definitely be the heel in more cases than not.
All right, here's one from Christian Bullard, another big supporter of the channel. Guys, I'm going through these as fast as I can in the order that they came in, but if you want to cut the line, you can donate to the Super Chat Party and we'll answer your question immediately. And if you use the hashtag question, it makes it easier for me to see the question. And things might get skipped accidentally, so I apologize if that's the case. But here's the question from Christian. You ready, Ralph?
Yes.
Favorite movie?
Oh, I can't. I have too many. Favorite movie ever? Or favorite movie?
Either one. There's really not that many wrestling movies when you think about it. There's The Wrestler. There was a movie from like the mid 80s with Roddy Piper and the Tonga Kid. I saw it once like 3 months ago, and the name escapes me now. But that one's not a bad movie. You have no holds barred.
I just watched the Peanut Butter Falcon last night. That was a good movie.
The what?
It's a wrestling movie. It's about a guy who he has Down syndrome, and he leaves a retirement home because he's trying to pursue his dream of going to a wrestling school.
Really?
It's actually very good. Yeah.
It's called, what's it called? Peanut Butter
Falcon.
Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yes.
I guess I'll have to watch that one. Where did you see that nugget?
My wife told me about it.
Jeez, I'd like to know where she found it. But this is a good question. Oh, by the way, my favorite movie is Back to the Future. Also Animal House. Here's one from Corey C. If you ran into Haku in a bar and he wanted to fight you both, what would you guys do? Probably piss and shit myself, run, and lock myself in the bathroom until he leaves.
I would lackadaisically kick his shins, back up 2 steps, slightly super kick his shin, and then when he tried to actually physically harm me, then I would decide to fight back. Because that is only the logical way to get into a fist fight in 2020.
Oh, that's amazing. Ralph has gone full-blown Orange Cassidy. We've done it, guys. We've done it. We've made him an Orange Cassidy mark. We've done it. Oh, thank you, guys. This channel is complete. We're no longer doing this podcast. We have done it. Our mission's complete. You guys can follow us, watch previous episodes, but no, I'm kidding. Let's move on. Jackalope Music donated $5 to the Super Chat Party. Thank you very much, man. Les Dinner Debonair was, in my opinion, so perfect. It did the worst viewers, though, on TV. Will we get more innovative segments in the future, or it's niche?
It's niche.
Niche.
No, I'm saying it is niche. It caters to a subset of the fan base. I think that now, look, I liked it. We've seen the direction of this feud for a little while now with the back and forth and the subtle undertone and the tonality where they're kind of joking with each other. They need to turn it on now. I need to see more seriousness out of Jericho and MJF to make me actually care about this. These guys are too talented to play grab ass every week on TV. Let's see this feud start to go somewhere now.
Hopefully tomorrow during the town hall thing, we'll see some kind of seriousness. Although we know the last time there was a political-esque segment with Jericho, it ended up talking about, what was it? Climate change, and Orange Cassidy gave this thing about tidal waves.
Don't bring up political and Jericho.
I know. He's under hot water today, or I don't know, giving money to a politician, I guess.
Oh my God.
But
do you want to answer that one first?
Which one?
The super chat from that Christian Buller?
Did I see?
Question, $2 donation. Do AEW or WWE have the more toxic fans? LOL.
Ooh, I'm not seeing that for some reason, but thank you for the $2 super chat. Oh, now it pops up. Thanks, Christian, for the question. Do AEW or WWE have more toxic fans? That is a damn good question, because they both have them. They really do. I think with AEW's toxic fans, it's like AEW could do no wrong. You know, if you say anything bad, and we've seen it in the comments, you know, Ralph could say something bad about Orange Cassidy, and it's like, the cavalry comes. And it's like, how dare you talk badly of Orange Cassidy? And you know, if we give like our constructive criticism to AEW, it's like, oh my God, why are you guys so negative about AEW? You guys are like, when we first started doing reviews, people were like, oh, you're nitpicking, but I think what our channel, although some of our fan base, you kind of see it, and some people have called this out. I think most of our fans do say that we are very unbiased in our opinion. Like, we're going to call it out as we see it, regardless of promotion. But there are, like, if we put up a poll and it's like choose between AEW and WWE, it's like 80% AEW and 20% or less of WWE. So there's definitely toxicity with those AEW fans because it's like you can't say any ill will to AEW, to those fans. WWE, their toxicity in their fans is just with particular wrestlers, like this stand culture thing of, we got Alexa Bliss. If someone says something bad to Alexa Bliss, all the Alexa Bliss fans come out. If someone says something bad about Roman Reigns, all the Roman Reigns fans come out. So I think the toxicity there is more stand culture, whereas AEW, it's more of the product itself and people just wanting it to succeed so bad that they kind of let things go and they don't want to admit like there's some things wrong with it. I don't know. What do you think?
I think much like politics today, we don't have very much civil discourse. There's not many two people willing to have an open and honest conversation. There's not many people that are willing to let their guard down and even entertain an opinion that differs from what their opinion may be. Dave Meltzer fans, if Dave Meltzer says it, that is the gospel. If it happens on Dynamite, that is the gospel. If it happens on Raw, that is the gospel. And it's like, when did we become so jaded and so territorial? There's such a sense, and the word that I say all the time, tribalism. There's such a sense of tribalism in professional wrestling now where our whole show, look, if I don't like something on Dynamite, I know it might piss off a big majority of the people that watch our show on a weekly basis. But I'm going to call it out because we're not going to be the show that just sucks at the social tight, so to speak, of the AEW fan base. And the same can be said for WWE. If it's good, if it's on Impact, if it's on New Japan, if it's on AEW, I will say it was very good. If the majority says it was good and I'm in the minority and I don't like it, I will speak my mind and say, this is why I don't like it. The conversations are the important thing. People need to start having those conversations to meet in the middle on certain things. If you don't agree with somebody, who cares? If you enjoy it, scroll past it on your Twitter feed and who gives a crap?
There's a mute button for a reason on Twitter, folks, or blocks and stuff. Like, I know it's like trying to put yourself in this like safe zone thing, but if you start using those features, Twitter would be a much better place. And Lance Storm even brought that up like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Mute buttons, man. I got to start using them more. But let's go to the next question from Malik Murray. Do you think that Kenny Omega should bring Bullet Club in AEW? And do you think that Randy Orton should make a new Evolution or Legacy? Oof.
Didn't they do that already? Didn't they try to do that with RKFT? What did they call them?
It was FTRKO.
Yeah.
And the problem was Vince didn't like full on go with it. If he continued that push, one, the Revival would still be in WWE, I bet you. And they would ride the coattails of Randy Orton winning the WWE Championship, and they would be Raw Tag Team Champions. And maybe we'll get some actual push in the tag team division in WWE. But as far as Kenny bringing the Bullet Club, here's the thing. Ever since the Bucks left the Bullet Club, there's been a lot of turmoil in the Bullet Club. Jay White and Evil don't know who the hell the leader is. You got Kenta here talking to two cameramen like he's cheating on the other. You got Tama Tonga and all those guys not even in New Japan right now because of the pandemic. So I don't think Bullet Club is really the thing to bring in for Kenny. Like, bring in some other stuff. Like, let him be, like, be the cleaner, but let him be his own thing. Don't let Bullet Club doesn't have to be there. That's the stuff like we see with WWE where they have to bring in all these like nostalgia things that people are going to quick pop for, but then it dies out. Let him be his own thing. Let him make his own story. By the way, the movie I was referring to with Roddy Piper and Tonga Kid, it's called Body Slam, which makes a whole lot of freaking sense.
Is Cobra Commando a wrestling movie?
You mean Suburban Commando?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, because they have.
I was frozen today.
They have Undertaker in it.
Yes, Undertaker's in it, and it's at that time that was like the only time he spoke, because this was like right after the Undertaker debuted, I believe. That was 1991 ish, and it make him have this high pitched voice, and Hogan goes, "No wonder why you don't talk."
True or false? Is this true or false? The Undertaker spoke to me personally.
He did. He did. We Fan Fest at WrestleMania 11. Ralph did the eye roll thing, and the Undertaker said, "Very good." It did happen. True or false? Howard Finkel introduced me at my wedding.
Nobody cares about that.
Yes, they do, damn it.
I came out to Stone Cold Steve Austin's theme song and chugged the beer.
I got the biggest pop for the new Mr. and Mrs. Michael Valenti. Yes, that happened. Anniversary is Thursday. So if there's no review this week, it's because I'm celebrating my anniversary. So if my wife's watching, happy anniversary early. But next question here. Unoriginal question from Stan Garza. What possible dream match would you like to see in any company?
Oh, boy. That's easy for me. You go first, or you want me to go first?
Go first, because I need to think mine a little bit.
The match to make is still to this day Kenny Omega and John Cena. Hands down. Nothing would draw more between the two promotions.
Now, see, are we talking about active wrestlers? Or do we have to go? Are we talking active wrestlers or all time? I'm guessing here it doesn't matter. My dream match would be Shawn Michaels versus Kazuchika Okada.
Shawn. Okay, you're saying all time here?
I'm just saying possible dream match. I don't know. I don't know what the criteria is, but for me, the dream match in their primes would be Shawn Michaels versus Kazuchika Okada.
Yep. I wouldn't mind seeing Daniel Bryan and Shawn Michaels. There's so many. I mean, when you start talking about dream matches, there's so many different things you could do.
True.
There's saying Michael says Randy Orton weird. Randy Orton. Can you
Randy
say
Orton? Randy Orton. How am I saying it weird? How do you say Randy Orton weird?
Randall. Orton.
Cool Whip. Is that what we're doing here? Cool Whip.
Two what?
Two Utes. Let's see. Ralph, I think you could answer this better than I can, because I definitely have not. But have you watched the Ring of Honor Pure Title Tournament? If so, what are your thoughts on the tournament and Ring of Honor's new presentation?
I have watched some of it. Here's the thing. I like some of the I think you're only limited to rope breaks. I like that a lot. I think that's really interesting. I don't like the fact that a lot of the guys are coming out and saying, "Oh, well, I trained Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I did this. I did." Okay, if you legitimately have trained martial art, that's great. I don't like some of the times when you watch professional wrestling and it tries to be fake or forced MMA. And that's why I didn't like Raw Underground, because if I want to watch MMA, I'm going to watch UFC. I'm not going to watch Raw Underground. So that's my take on it. But
and NXT, I haven't watched the Pure Tournament at all, because honestly, I don't even know when Ring of Honor's on television. I think, isn't it on at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on NESN?
I DVR it. I couldn't even tell you when it's actually on. But
I don't. The one thing that I think I can relate to when it comes to like these tournament things, one is the G1, which I think was good for the A block, really good in the A block. The B block was very hit or miss. Also, NXT UK is doing these British rules tournaments, and it's kind of like Brawl for All, where like if you knock the guy out, you automatically win. But there's also like 3-minute rounds. There's 5 3-minute rounds. It's very interesting. And they have some decent matchups, like Noam Dar won in the first round. What's his name? David Mastiff knocked the guy out in the first round. He knocked out, I think it was Joe Connors. To me, Mastiff just looks like a freaking Vader wannabe with a beard. To me, it really turns me off for some reason. But there's 2 questions here before we head out. If anybody also wants to donate, please to Super Chat if you want to cut the line really quick. Also, the merch, the promo code is good until tomorrow night after Dynamite. SCPB Live, $5 off on any SCPB merchandise, from t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, phone cases. So, all right, here are the questions. Number 1 from Malik Murray. Do you think that MJF should go for the AEW Championship or TNT Championship? And do you see Keith Lee joining the Hurt Business?
Keith Lee joining the Hurt. Actually, that's not a bad suggestion. That could be pretty good. MJF should challenge for the TNT Championship, in my opinion. Maybe further that storyline a little bit with Cody.
I agree. Go with the TNT Championship. Keith Lee go into the Hurt Business. Maybe he can lure Mia Yim out of Retribution and into the Hurt Business that way. Retribution needs to go.
Oh my God. Did you see that during the match where she had that convulsion of some sort?
I don't know what that was. I don't know if she was being possessed by the Fiend from last week or something. There's something really weird about that.
I just can't believe somebody gave her a script. I'm assuming that's what happened. Unless this is a legitimate thing. I don't think so. I believe this is part of the show. If it is, obviously, hope she gets better. But why? So terrible.
It was bad. It was really bad. But next question comes from Godson. This situation is pre-COVID. A Raw crowd decides to attack Brock Lesnar. How many audience members will Brock Lesnar take out? How many are in the audience? How many is in the arena?
Who's in the audience?
Yeah, what arena are we in? Are we in like Daly's place that only holds 5,000? Are we in Madison Square Garden that holds 20,000?
Who's first? Who would be?
Who's the idiot that goes first? Because not only that, you don't have to worry about Brock Lesnar getting taken out. These guys, the whole roster would come out. Let's not forget when the guy attacked Bret Hart at the Hall of Fame. What Dash Wild was it Wilder? One of the guys from FTR Revival did it, but they beat the shit out of the guy. So I think once they see a couple guys get their ass kicked, the rest of the crowd will be like, all right, not our place, guys. Back it up. Do you think NXT has killed off Kyle O'Reilly's push already?
No.
The story's just begun. 1 year from now, who are the champions in AEW and WWE?
1 year?
1 year from now.
Oh, well, if crowds are coming back.
I think Roman is the Universal Champion still. Maybe dropped in and wins it back. I think Drew McIntyre will be WWE Champion. Tag Champion's probably the New Day. In either brand. Maybe they finally merge the titles and they're just the only tag team left. U.S. Champion, I'll go with Matt Riddle. Intercontinental Champion. Listen, I wouldn't mind Sami Zayn holding that title forever at this point, the way his character is working right now. AEW, Cody will be the AEW champion at some point next year. I believe I have, in my booking that I did from our last episode with Kenny Omega, I have him winning the title at Revolution, going all the way to Full Gear next year, losing to Jericho, who will then drop it to Hangman Page. Tag team, Best Friends. That's a bold prediction. Best Friends. And TNT champion, Orange Cassidy.
God Lord.
No, I would say TNT champion is probably going to be someone we don't know yet. Going to be someone we're not even talking about yet. Could be a guy like Serpentico. Could be a guy like Will Hobbs, Ricky Starks. One of those guys. But we'll see. Let's see. A lot of questions just flooded in. Ralph, a very common question early on in our podcast. You ready for this? From Seymour Ascrack. Very funny. No, but thank you for the question. He's a new listener. Are you guys related? When we first started this podcast, I don't know how many times I saw the comment, brothers or lovers? We are brothers. Yes, we are related. We're brothers. Let's see.
Come up with something creative, guys. We only got a little longer to go here.
If AJ Styles went to AEW, how much of a draw would he be to the company? I think he'd be a huge draw for the company. Yeah. Anybody that comes from WWE that had significant success like AJ has, being 371 days as WWE champion. Of course, he'd be a draw for AEW, especially for their fan base.
And he's also been big in other companies, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA,
Ring of Honor.
You got to think that he's going to carry at least a little bit of that fan base over with him.
Yep. Which wrestlers in AEW and or WWE would you like to see get a full run in New Japan? See, I like the WWE guys. Believe it or not, I think Braun would have a very interesting run in New Japan.
Essentially take the Lance Archer spot.
Yeah, maybe that. Like keep him with Suzuki-gun and Minoru Suzuki. That's an interesting question. AEW. I mean, Moxley and Jericho are already there. Omega and the Bucks have already been there. A lot of guys that are in AEW have had some time in New Japan. I don't know. Maybe like if Cody had like a real run in New Japan, maybe. Because he just had like a small blips here and there, like when Ring of Honor was doing stuff and he had that small feud with Juice. But that's really it. Maybe him as like get a full run.
Bald head, choice or genetics, both. Bald head with a beard.
Yep. Lee Jones is saying that we're not answering his questions, man. I'm trying, man. There's times where maybe it's the same question getting asked and I just skim it. Like I'm trying hard. Okay. Yes, Jericho or MJF about what? I'm not sure about what, but what other question? Lee Jones. BT has been terrible lately, literally the worst. I'm trying to find a question here that you asked that we didn't answer.
Paul Miller, did you see my last question? I did not. Resubmit it.
Yeah, if we missed something, feel free to ask a couple times. We're gonna do like maybe 5 more minutes here. Do you think Miro is being hurt with Kip Sabian?
No, I think his booking is.
Wouldn't that be with Kip Sabian?
No, but it's the storylines and everything surrounding him since his debut that's hurting him.
Good question. All right. What are the chances that AEW starts house shows? Well, first we got to end the pandemic, but even then, like house shows have been known to kind of been a revenue killer, especially with WWE, and AEW allows their wrestlers to do independent shows. So I don't think house shows are really necessary. What do you think?
I don't see the need for it. I mean,
that's true.
I don't.
All right. Here's one from Dope Dubs Productions. What MLW star do you want in AEW? I know who you're going to pick.
Alexander Hammerstone.
Yep. I'm going to go with my fellow University of New Haven Charger, Mr. Richard Holiday. Bring
Jacob
back
Fatu.
Yep.
I would love for Jacob Fatu to go to the WWE and challenge Roman.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about that. I've heard some people talk about that. I mean, is MLW like exclusive? I know they're starting to sign their guys exclusively, but if not, let them do a match on SmackDown.
WWE would just buy out his contract.
That too. That's true. Here's one from Sean Jones. Is Dexter Lumis being overlooked? I think he is good when he is in character as a stalker. I love Dexter Lumis. I think there's a lot of potential with Dexter Lumis. I don't know if he's being overlooked. He was hurt, so it's hard. He's trying to get back into the swing of things. So I think that stunt gone wrong that they tried to edit out, obviously hurt his push, but I'm excited for tomorrow's match with him and Cameron Grimes. So I don't think he's been overlooked. What do you think?
I don't think he's being overlooked. He's another one. Like we don't truly know if it's working or not because there's no fans there to gauge it.
Yep. Yeah. Cesaro in New Japan. I forgot about that. Imagine Cesaro versus Minoru Suzuki. How stiff those shots would be. Oh man,
that would be a good match.
That would be awesome. Do you think NXT could come back in the ratings to be true rival to AEW anymore? We talked about this a while ago. In case you missed it, don't look at the ratings. Watch what you want to watch. They'll be there. Who would join Osprey's empire? Is it the end of Chaos? Is this a big faction like Chaos or Bullet Club or small like LIJ? I think time will tell, but I probably would rather see more like an LIJ, smaller than something bigger than like Chaos or Bullet Club. Like Chaos, they don't really act like a group, you know? Like they're in matches together and stuff, but they're not like Bullet Club where like you see them in packs. Like if I asked you who are members of Chaos, you probably wouldn't know who's in Chaos. But then when I tell you who's in Chaos, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know who those are. That's the thing with Chaos. Like Okada's in Chaos. Osprey was in Chaos. Goto's in Chaos. Ishii's in Chaos. But Rocky Romero's in Chaos.
Here's a good question. How far do you think Brock Lesnar would have gone if he stuck with WWE? Would he be bigger than Cena? I don't think so. I think that him leaving actually helped him because he went to the UFC, which helped legitimize him as a true badass, having some success there. And I mean, look, Brock has a bad reputation because of all the style he works and the way he's been booked and positioned. But I mean, to work part-time and get paid full-time, could you blame him?
Right.
And for two, go back and watch his return when he came back and confronted Cena and listen to that crowd. That is one of the loudest pops of the past 10 years, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It was a huge pop. Huge. Next, let's see. Do you think AEW should have picked someone else for Lance Archer's gimmick? Someone younger? I was thinking either Ring of Honor's Brody King or MLW's Alexander Hammerstone.
Alexander Hammerstone's not very tall, I don't think.
He's 6'3", I think.
Okay, so he is tall. That's tall. I'm not anywhere near 6'3". So, I don't think Lance Archer's. I mean,
the age isn't the issue.
I think he's being booked okay. It could be better, but I mean, I think I like him with Jake the Snake. Mind you, that movie I was talking about, Peanut Butter Falcon, Jake the Snake is in that movie.
Okay.
So is Mick Foley.
Okay. What was this pre-DDP Jake or post-DDP Jake?
Post. I think this movie came out maybe last year, a couple of years ago at most.
Peanut Butter Falcon. It's Peanut Butter Falcon time. Sorry.
What would happen if Shawn had gone to WCW? Would the company fall apart quicker? Oh my God. Can you imagine a toxic Shawn Michaels getting the band back together in WCW in that chaotic
WCW would have fallen quicker if Shawn was there, not WWE. Because WWE, it would have been like, okay, the backstage politics is gone. Let's go. And the Attitude Era probably would have started sooner. But let's see. Where was I? Again, I apologize if I'm skipping questions here. How would you rate Ring of Honor's women's division and Women of Honor? Could they be a good partnership that could really help AEW's women, or would they be better with NWA's women? I'll be honest with you. I couldn't even tell you 5 women in Ring of Honor's women's division. And that's mostly part of ignorance. I'll admit it. I don't watch Ring of Honor, but to my knowledge, Velvet Sky is the only one in the women's division. I don't even think she's there anymore. So I'm sure I'll get bombarded with the live chat saying, oh my God, she's not even there anymore. But AEW with NWA would really help. Thunder Rosa, Sienna or Allison Kay, Marty Bell. I think there's more there from NWA than there is Ring of Honor, personally. Will we see CM Punk back in 2021? If so, where? We will see him in the ring at the Pro Wrestling Tees shop in Chicago, Illinois. Who do you think today would do well in the Attitude Era?
Ooh.
MJF.
MJF, yeah. For sure.
You know who else would? Baron Corbin. Believe it or not, I think Baron Corbin would get so much heat in the Attitude Era. And because there's no social media, I bet what he does in social media would be shown more on television during the Attitude Era, that he would be so much better in the Attitude Era. Another guy that would do well in the Attitude Era today, I think most like the ones that really stick to their character. Like I think the Roman we're seeing now would definitely work in the Attitude Era. And I think that's why it's working so well now, is because that's what people want. They want that attitude. If Vince steals the Orange Cassidy gimmick, it should be just carved Pumpkin Jack, just like he did to Goldberg with Gilbert. That wasn't a question, but I'm glad you used the hashtag question. But I don't know why they haven't done like a Gilbert-esque character. I guess Robert Stone is kind of like a rib on Tony Khan. That's what I at least heard. I don't think that's really true. It's just a dork with glasses. But if AEW signs Roosh and his brother Dragon Lee, could we see a Los Ingobernables type stable to form an AEW? If so, which stars would you have them made up of? I don't know. See, I know more of LIJ than like the Los Ingobernables. And I mean, Orange Cassidy probably is like the most like tranquilo in wrestling. So it just makes sense for him to be tranquilo in Los Ingobernables. Let's see. How far do you think? Oh, we already asked that. How far do you think Brock Lesnar will go? Would you sign Tessa Blanchard's now husband to ensure she signs? So Daga just got released from Impact Wrestling. Would you sign him to get to Tessa?
Sure, why not? He make a lovely addition on NXT.
Yeah. I don't think you necessarily need him to get to her. Just get her. Which Impact women should AEW get like yesterday? Jordan Grace.
Yeah.
Deonna Purrazzo, they missed the boat on significantly, especially when she was a free agent. I think Su Yung is a very interesting character, but they kind of have that with Abaddon. I like mainly those two, I would think. Jordan Grace, definitely, and Deonna Purrazzo. And Taya Valkyrie, maybe, could be another one.
Just for notoriety's sake, I think that they could have signed Emma, too.
Yep. I know they tried to get her for the Casino Battle Royale last year, and they did get her, but nothing full-time came to that. Who has done a better job as world champion, Jon Moxley or Drew McIntyre? McIntyre had an awesome run. Given the circumstances, his run was good. The fact that, other than the Orton storyline, he faced different opponents each month, from Rollins to Lashley to Ziggler, and then the Orton story, which was very good, I think. One of the very few things that was good on Raw. I think McIntyre, I think right now his run has been good compared to Moxley's.
I don't think and the surprising thing, because when you talk about fickle fans, sometimes WWE fans, once they get what they want, it's like, okay, you give us what we want, we automatically are going to reject it now. McIntyre got himself over, looked really good in all of his matches, and the fans never really pushed back, and they were like, oh, see, we don't want to see him anymore. He's been champion. We're on to the next thing. I think he really solidified him as a top guy that they can rely on going forward.
Right. No, I agree. Next question. What do you think would have happened if, you already asked that, if Sean went to WCW? Let's see. Do you think a slow burn Kenny Omega cleaner change would work better than just doing it now the way, if we get back to more fans, it creates a bigger pop? So do you wait till the fans come back, or do you just start now?
I'm sorry. I was reading one of the questions and laughing out loud. So
what's that? What was the question?
How long did you wait before you told your wives you were wrestling fans?
Well, honestly, when I met my wife, I wasn't really watching wrestling. I was like out of it for a while. Then like 2012, 2013, I was slowly getting back into it. Then the WWE network launched and I was back in it like full blown again. So I think she really hated me as a wrestling fan when this podcast started, honestly. But yeah, I don't think she really cares I'm a wrestling fan. She just doesn't, she just wishes sometimes I didn't have it so invested in it, but it's like, I got to make content for the YouTube channel. I got to make content for the podcast. And, it is what it is. But your wife, you guys go to shows together. I mean, we went to WrestleMania together, so I don't think she has that big of an issue about it.
No, she doesn't watch it. I don't think she doesn't watch it at all anymore. But when going back to like the Daniel Bryan Yes movement, NXT takeovers, things like that, she would watch it.
Right. All right. I think we're getting to the end of this. Do you guys think that Roman Reigns should bring back the World Heavyweight Championship? No. WWE has too many damn belts. What they need to do is get rid of some and merge some, not add more. But maybe if you replace the Universal with the World Heavyweight Championship, sure. But
Ralph, would you interview Orange Cassidy and tell him what you think of him? That would be awesome.
If we can make it happen. I know it might be the shortest Orange Cassidy interview ever. It would be like, "Hi, welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Orange Cassidy, I hate you." Whatever.
No, I don't. I wouldn't hate him. I'd ask him questions. He wouldn't answer, and then I would basically just continue to antagonize him.
Yep. Why does Ralph look like a smaller Miro? I don't see Miro. I
Smaller.
I see a bald Seth Rollins.
I get Seth Rollins. I get Miro. Before, when I had hair, people used to say Randy Orton when I didn't have a beard.
The only thing I get is Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I get that a lot. My wife says I look like the Rams head coach Sean McVay.
I've heard people say that too.
That I look like him?
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't know. But last question. What if Booker beat Triple H at WrestleMania 18? How far would he go as champion? Now, this is one of those really Triple H-esque bookings that were happening at the time with the Golden Shovel or whatever that we're kind of seeing now with Cody Rhodes. I think if Booker, because didn't Booker win the King of the Ring later that year? Or is that later on in his career? I think that was...
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't King Booker also lose to its returning Triple H at SummerSlam?
I'm not 100% on that, but I think that is correct.
Anyway, I think that look, Booker T, when I think of Booker T, I still think of him as one of the biggest guys. Certainly, let me think, maybe the most successful guy to come over from WCW in that whole invasion thing, who was able to separate himself and still be a big star. I think that Booker T still had a successful run in WWE, whether he won or lost. I don't think that defines his career in WWE the way people say it does.
Right.
Is it a bad loss? Yeah, I think he should have won. I think he should have certainly won. I don't think he should have lost the way he lost if he was going to lose, but I don't think that defines his run in WWE by any means.
Right. And I think I said 18. It was actually WrestleMania 19 that match was. But yeah. Orange Cassidy questions to close it out, Ralph. Final question.
Oh, God.
Do you think Orange Cassidy could get credibility if you put him with Jericho as his advisor?
He'd get credibility if he stopped playing with the shin kicks and all that other stupid shit.
He needs Jim Cornette as his advisor. That's what he needs. He doesn't need Jericho. He needs Cornette, someone that's going to tell him, look, this is mud show bullshit. And I know my Cornette impression's terrible, but, it is what it is. But, yeah, thank you guys so much for these questions. It was a lot of fun. I think this is our longest live stream we've ever done. We usually do them before AEW pay-per-views when we do our predictions. So we're going to do that again on November 7th, a week from Saturday. I'd like to thank Lee Jones for his donations, Christian Buller for your donations. We got a couple subscribers, Edadina Gonzalez and Anod. Thank you for subscribing. Francis Loop, thank you very much for your couple big donations. Lee Jones again, donating on the Super Chat Party. Jackalope Music, thank you so much, guys, for subscribing. Thank you all for submitting your questions. Don't forget, we got merch you could do to help support the channel and wear the SCPB logo. Proud. Go to the store on the shelf underneath this video. There's a pin on the live chat somewhere. Also, our store is through Teespring. Check that out. Just search Squared Circle Psychobabble. It's there. T-shirts, hoodies, pullover hoodies, stickers, phone cases. There's a fleece blanket to keep you nice and warm during the winter months while listening to your favorite pro wrestling podcast. And so much more. Thank you guys. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We'll see you guys on Thursday for our reviews of AEW Dynamite and NXT. For Ralph Valenti, my name's Michael Valenti saying so long from the Squared Circle Psychobabble.